Hi. I just wanted to pop in quickly to talk about the 4B movement and I guess the 4G movement, which is it's like men who are trying to make a stance against 4B. So they're doing like 4G. I just want to talk about it all for a second. Um the reason that I think the 4B movement, even so, I've seen videos where people are talking about how the 4B movement in Korea is such a small segment of the population that it isn't actually a real movement in Korea. Not the point though, because it's this like conceptual idea that's like coming over to the West, to America specifically, and there are black women who are now making content and talking about how they want to live by the 4B movement and have been living by it. And all it is this idea that conceptually is like bringing some women together. Now, I don't even see how this could, like, this is a very positive thing. Like, any movement that's going to allow women to like see each other, identify their each other's humanity, promote unity and safety is like a good thing for everyone. Um, so I'm actually not sure why men are responding to the 4B movement in some way that's like negative. Like women basically saying like, yeah, I'm going to like just completely stay away from men. It is a problem because there's going to be a lot fewer prospects for men to procreate with, but that is the point. But also I think we have to be serious about like what is happening with the fresh and fit guy, where we're basically seeing how he's sleeping with all of these women. And so some woman that he was like sleeping with and he was like publicly dating her, he's introduced this woman to his mother and his grandmother, and so she's pregnant and he's telling her to abort the child. And she actually wants to keep the child. I think that this is a really good lesson for like all women to learn from, because there are things that are happening communally that some of us have been speaking out about for a while, and I think other people keep gaslighting it and saying like, no, we're not all like this, no, it's not a societal thing, no, it's not a community problem. And like, this is where I'm sorry, but like black men are kind of like really taking the L here, like in a really big way, because like the way that I saw Fit or Fresh or whichever one, the one who didn't knock the girl up, the other one, the way that he's like going to bat for his friend, even as his friend is just doing all type of shit that's just wrong. So there's like morality, which is like on the right all the way over here, and then there's like ethics and like doing what's right. And then there's the guy who's like all the way over here just behaving wrong. Like he is in the wrong all the way. Then there's his friend who I guess he likes him but still can't say like, hey friend, you're wrong. He like can't and won't say that. And everyone doesn't understand how this is like hurting other people in society. It's hurting the men who are following them, who look up to them. It's hurting the women, okay, who like are believing that these guys are good when they're like not. Everyone is being hurt. And it's a problem. It's a problem. And so I feel awful for this woman because she actually wants to keep a baby that he doesn't want, that he's publicly come out and said that he doesn't want. I wish that like she did want an abortion so that, you know, she could just move on from him and kind of like get a little bit of therapy and not have to deal with him anymore. But now she's like signing up to like deal with him for life, and that is a tragedy. I think that is a real tragedy in this case. because he's like a god awful guy, and he's got a community of awful people around him supporting him. And it's like no one cares. And like that's the most sucky part of all of it. At least if someone cared, then people would try to change. But I think that the 4B movement is maybe, I think it's great because it's like a name to a situation that has like already been happening. Like so many of us have decided to just stay away from dating, like stay away from men in order literally to protect our safety, for protection. That it's just for protection. Like men are the number one predators of women on planet Earth. Like women are being killed by men. Women need to be afraid of men. If you are a female and you're not afraid of men, then you're delusional. Because men are they're the number one predator of women. It isn't like lions or COVID, okay? It's men. Men are killing women. So men are doing all types of things, and it's very hurtful to women, especially black women. Like I think for it's a lot of the what's happening, I see happening with social media is kind of like this maybe not politeness politics sort of thing, but kind of it's respectability politics in online spaces where people are trying to show up and give off the impression that everything is okay, even as a community is literally in shambles. um it's very strange. Like we all know what's happening in the inner city, and it's weird because it's like, do we all know that there's an inner city, right? So like you do know there are people who are living in the inner city like right now. But you know what's funny? I think the people who are living in the inner city, they don't know that like they are the inner city youth that we're all talking about. I don't think that's clear. And there's a whole other part to this where like some of us, like at least on this channel, we're gonna keep talking about it just so like we're not like passing through Deluluville, because this is something that has given me anxiety for a very long time. It's literally caused me to have multiple anxiety attacks. Here's the situation. Yeah, I made another video that was kind of like my problem with Black America, and there were like a couple of other Black creators that made content like this. I saw that Kelly Stamps made a video that was kind of similar to this. It was like my perception of race as a Black woman or something. It sounds like she was taking more of like the Coleman Hughes side of it, which I really don't care like which side of it an individual is taking. But I do want to say, like, I feel like some of us are a little bit more like, how do we say, like hyper aware of race and class and how those two things are like this, and that you can't really separate them and then start to talk about groups. Like you can definitely talk about individuality amongst Black people, but you can actually start, like we do have like a census in the United States, and so many things are based on the census. So if at any point in time you're talking about a racial categorization or some ethnicity or cultural identifier, which usually people talk about this. They talk about like the city, the neighborhood they grew up in, their family, their race, some dish or something that they make. Okay, well now you're starting to talk about things that have to do with like culture and race. And you just cannot talk about being Black in America without talking about like sort of the economic depravity that has come with that to the group at large. Like many people in the group have been systemically affected in bad ways where they like don't have access to opportunity. So that's why people are calling these people like members of marginalized groups. Now people who are not members of marginalized groups, they even know this, so that when they see a Black person who is really doing something that is familiar to them, like going to college, going to the grocery store, having a job, living in an apartment, riding the bus and paying for it, eating a meal, all these things that are like a normal part of like civil society, they're like, oh my God, where did this person grow up? How does this person know how to do this? Because so many people, Black people specifically, men, women, and children and alike, don't know how to do these regular things. because they have not been assimilated into society. There's all this like counterculture. Every rap song and stuff that you see coming out, it's all promoting the same shit. It's like weirdness. It's like counterculture and like urban weirdness. I don't even know another way to say it. It's just why we like literally have to have normal regular black people who come at least on YouTube to kind of give more of a like, this is the middle ground explanation of what's happening. Otherwise, you will have more of a generation of black middle class youth who are just lost and who don't have any place in society because there's been no representation. And especially being a first in some of those spaces, which I feel like I've been for a while, it is very difficult. I would highly not recommend it because you're just challenged in way too many ways, and you're met with this really awful, vile, like dirty, like icky racism that you don't, no one person has the capacity or skills to unpack it and make meaningful sense of it, because it doesn't make any sense. Let's go back for a second. So what the fuck does this have to do with the 4B movement? Basically, the 4B movement is safe for black women. And I'm happy that it exists. I fully support it. I am planning to participate in it as well. Not totally. I mean, I work with males, and like, I'm not gonna like not interact with people I work with, but I do think that like, kind of like abstaining from relationships or like sex or like, I think all of that stuff is like useful, at least for now, maybe for like a decade, and just to like let things, you know, simmer out and like really start to, I think when you also deprioritize relationships with men, you're able to really hone in and focus on things that are truly meaningful and important to you and for you, that will like push you forward in your life. And that's important. Those things like require work. Yeah.